Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second in our student-led webinar series in the Instructional Design program at Quinnipiac University for the spring of 2026. So today is March 4th, and we're really excited to have a presentation about AI in action, real-world applications for e-learning development. And I'm excited to have Jess Baer, who is a member of the IDN class of 2020, join us tonight. She is a senior instructional designer at UMass Chan Medical School. So I will turn things over to Jess.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. All right, let's see if I can pull up my slides and go full screen. All right, let's see what happens. I'm going to put on Do Not Disturb first. All right, there we go. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see
Okay,
it.
awesome. Okay. All right. So, oh, it's weird not seeing everyone. It's fine. I can deal with it. Okay. Hi. Hello. Okay. I'm Jess. Uh, Thanks for having me. Let's do this. So, my first slide up is who am I and why should you care? So, my name is Jess Baer. I was part of the 2018 cohort for the Instructional Design Master's Program. And then I graduated in 2020, but it was during the pandemic, so then we didn't walk till 2021. So that was like a fun, yay. I work at UMass Chan Medical School for a very small group called the Center for Integrated Primary Care. We are a very little group inside of family medicine and community health. And basically what we are two psychologists and three staff members, and we develop behavioral health online courses that any physician or clinician across the country or world can take our online courses. They're all self-paced with some live pieces here and there. And so, yeah, we work with other doctors. We ask other professionals to be our subject matter experts, and we focus on behavioral health experts integrating into clinics with their physician counterparts and working as a team to help everyone that has a primary care get the help and support they need regarding like anxiety, depression, addiction, PTSD, all sorts of different things that are not just physical but behavioral as well. So that's like a little context of like what I do. So you'll be hearing lots of like medical and behavioral health information as we chat. Okay, so I did want to just address this, like what is my personal stance on AI? Because I felt like people have all sorts of hot takes, and I'm just going to be super blunt. Like I just think of AI as tool. Uh, like video editing tools, authoring tools, image like Photoshop is an image editing tool. They're all tools, and you're trying to do something, and you're got to use the right tool for the job. Also, just because you're video editing a video doesn't mean you're a good video editor. Like you can make bad videos, and like you got to work on the tools to be good at them. So I just think of all the different AI things as they're just tools, and I'm trying to decide like what I want to spend my time learning and what is really going to help me and benefit my work. So that's kind of how I'm parsing AI out. Is a tool. Do I want to spend the time learning to figure this stuff out? So there you go. Also, feel free to interrupt me, ask questions. I'm going to try to pause throughout. So, and ask if anyone has any thoughts, like if you've used things, if you have other tools you want to throw out there, like please do. We can look at the chat too. Like, absolutely. Like, I want this to be a larger conversation and not just me yammering. Okay. All right, what are we going to talk about? I have 5 tools. I have screenshots, but I also have them queued up in the background. And we're just going to talk about different ways to address text and audio and image creation, and just how I'm using them. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So the first one I'm going to bring up is Claude. I feel like most people that are like AI curious are like they're aware of ChatGPT, they're aware of Claude, they're aware of like asking questions to an AI platform and getting answers. So that's kind of where we're starting. I grabbed a screenshot of one recently. So I use it a lot for stripping text, like stripping transcripts. So when we for our course development, we have a lot of just like conversations, um, or we're recording case examples where it's like a fake clinician, a fake patient, and they're having a conversation. And sometimes we need that text as like a script, but with the it's already happened. So, I upload the video, I pull down the transcript that, was like auto generated. And now I need it to be in like a nice formatted script. So this is just a screenshot of me being like, can you format the script? The first person is a clinician, and then the second is a patient. Can you remove all the timestamps and format it for me? And then they do, and it's great. And it's super helpful for me because I need to be able to take this text and make a printout, or like make it a resource that's available for download, or during these conversations of these patient interactions, we need to like highlight the skills that are happening. So we have the video, and now we need the script to really like bring home what we're trying to teach people, these kind of skills. So other things that we're using for Claude is like definitely marketing. We will upload all sorts of different things from our website, just trying to I grabbed a bunch of text, and I was like, I need to make like a 2-minute tour video of one of my courses. And I don't know how to like say this in 2 minutes. Like this is like so much information. And it's really good at like distilling and shortening and making things concise, where like we're very lengthy talkers, as you probably are can tell already. So like we just need to be more succinct. And I think Claude and these, ChatGPT, they're very helpful in distilling and being more succinct and like to the point, like less fluff or less kind of like bloat, and just more to the point. And we also we've been using it for like assessment questions as just like a starting point. A lot of our assessment questions are just, we're not really like we're checking knowledge, but it's like a last ditch attempt to hit major points before they're done with a module. So we're kind of we think of assessment questions as like, yes, do they know the content, but also like, what are the most important points, and like, how can we get them to the learner one more time? So we kind of cue things up in Claude, with a lot of context. Like these are like the things we're looking for. We want to hit these points, and we need questions that will kind of help the learner understand, and like reflect upon these questions one last time, because they may not ever look at this information again. So we try to, when we ask questions to Claude, we try to give a lot of context up front. Sometimes we'll be like, I want you to pretend that you're a librarian at a medical school and you're helping students, and we're trying to give it a persona, and then we ask it to do things, and then we found that has been like super helpful. Any questions on Claude?
I do have a question, Jess. So, are you obviously you're using this at work. Did they pay for it, or is there a free version? And then like, is everybody using Claude, or is everybody kind of I know you said you have like a small department, but just using whatever? Like, do you have any guidance from your employer about what you should be using?
Like, great question, because I was literally talking with my boss man, Dan, who's like our head of our little group. And I was like, does UMass even have like an opinion? And we like scoured the IT website, and there's no talk about it, like about what's okay and what's allowed and what's not allowed. So I feel like it's really kind of wild west right now, and everyone's just using whatever they want. But I'm going to go to the next slide because this is kind of linked. So there's something called Claude Cowork, and you install it on your computer. So my boss man Dan was like, do you think UMass IT will let me install this on my laptop? And I was like, I don't know, try it, see what happens. Like what, let's see if it like pings you with security. And what, like, I don't know. And he's like, well, I'll like, you can basically, you can have it look at your whole computer or you can have it point to a folder. And so he was like, I'm just going to install it and point it to a folder. So we did, and he was like, "Oh, it actually works pretty good." So it basically like you install it, he pointed it to a folder. The folder was all of the content for one of our courses that we've just launched called PCBH, Primary Care Behavioral Health. And like he gave it, the prompt that he wanted, like a course summary and like, the information of like why this training is necessary, and then kind of like descriptions of the modules and like order. And he was like, it did pretty good. It did pretty good. And our IT has not pinged him about like a security issue. So yeah, I'm very curious to see like how things progress, and will like at some point will these be like yoinked away from us? Like actually this is bad. Don't do that anymore. So I don't know. Yeah. And like right now everyone's just kind of like, as we use stuff, we're sharing with each other. Like, hey, I used this for this and it worked out pretty okay. Like worked out well. Or it was a good starter, like a base, to work with. Um, but yeah, also like how everyone else, like do your jobs like allow AI?
I own my businesses, so I allow them. Are are you- are you using Claude primarily for textual language production, or are you using it for any video or any of those kind of things?
I mostly use it for text-based items, and like not because of anything special, only because that's what I've only ever used it for, and I haven't explored its other options. So yeah, like I'll show you like the other stuff that I'm using for video and images. But like I know they're all capable of doing a lot. So forgive me if I'm like I use it for one thing and that's what I use it for, because there's probably just like they're growing so fast, so it's hard to keep up about like what what platforms are allowing or doing what.
I too have found that Claude's exceptional over ChatGPT and Gemini, especially in the natural fluidity of language and reports and those kind of things. I have to make a lot less corrections
Yes.
with
Yeah.
Claude.
I do feel like Claude is like more correct, more right. Yeah. Like I felt like ChatGPT sometimes like, I don't know, lost its mind. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
All right.
well, your question at Quinnipiac, we have had kind of like what you said, the approach of just everybody using everything. But over time, I think that IT is sort of trying to kind of guide us towards certain platforms. So for a while, we were using Copilot because we're a Microsoft school, so it just made sense and it kind of came along with everything else we had. But now I think they're looking for a different like enterprise solution, but they want everyone kind of using the same thing, and just even little things like the little bots that take notes in Zoom. Like people kept coming into meetings and like there would be like 10 different kinds of bots that were taking notes in Zoom, and finally they made a policy like, don't do that, we don't want these because we don't know these different companies where this information's going. And so then they gave us Zoom AI companion, so that they're kind of like gave us guidance like, this is what we want you using. If you need notes in Zoom, this is what you're going to use, and don't use these other tools. So it's like you said, it's kind of like the Wild West, and now they're trying, at least at Quinnipiac, to get control of the Wild West and streamline it a bit and try to protect, it's really to protect people from using tools that are going to be stealing your data, or who knows what they're doing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And like, there's always the concern of like you're feeding your proprietary information. Like, we always chat about it. Like we develop our courses from our physicians and doctors, and then we're like, do we really want to put it in to the AI beast? So we have like these conversations all the time where it's like, does the good outweigh the bad? Like, is this okay? And then we do it. Okay, so I'm sure like you've all also have kind of looked into Notebook LM through Google. So what it is it you have sources and you can use websites, but like I usually for my courses, I'm feeding it the slide deck, and then you can't feed it videos, but you can feed it audio. So most of our courses are like very video heavy. So basically what I do is I open up the videos that I have on my computer for the course. I export it as an audio file, an MP4. And then I take all the audio files and dump it into Notebook where it's going to compile it. And then we have on the right-hand side, like all the different things that you can pull together from all of your sources. So this is like module 6 in the PCBH course, and I'll usually go into reports and then I'll do a briefing doc, and then that will give me basically like a nice summary of all of the conversations happening in those videos. And then that's like a downloadable note for our learners because they can't take the videos with them when they're done with the course. They can just watch them. So we want to give them something physical, well, something to leave the course with they can refer to after they've watched the videos. And the way we develop this course specifically is like we have a slide deck that's like really light. It's just white background, black text with bullets. And then we have two doctors go in front of a camera and then they just have a conversation trying to hit those bullets because we wanted to feel more like authentic and genuine. And it's just two doctors like sharing their knowledge. So if we have too much slides or like too much planned, it doesn't feel natural and it feels like kind of stiff and like I don't know, just hard to watch. So we found that this style of recording is really great for like pulling out like anecdotes, and they tell stories and they explain, patient examples while they're trying to hit these bullet points. But then it's hard to have notes. So this is really helping us solve the problem of like, okay, we've like recorded these great conversations, we've hit the points, we have these videos, but now how do we get a nice formatted PDF to the learners based off of these conversations? So this was our solution of how to do that. And we do it for each module. We take it from here, we throw it into a Google Doc, and we still have our doctors review it before we finalize it, brand it, and put it on the course site. But this has worked really well. We did look into the audio overview area over on the right-hand side because we were like, we have a lot of like research papers that we want to reference or like talk about, but not a lot of people have time to just like sit and read a research paper. So we did test like, can we feed these like 28-page research papers into Notebook, get a 17-minute podcast, and like what does that look like? And it works. I don't think we decided to go forward with it, but if you have something beefy you need to read, try putting it in here, and then like you get to download a little podcast and you can listen in the car while you drive somewhere. It's like two people talking. I think pretty naturally. My boss man Dan hates it. He's like, I hate this, is like an HR training. I hate it. But has anyone used Notebook and like have their own examples? I've lost my mouse, so I can't open the chat up. Let's see if I can. Okay.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cindy. Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm on my phone. I apologize for my tech issues. I really enjoy Notebook LM. I have a master's level course it's a quick program of 15 months, and I have several students who have an hour to an hour and a half drive to campus for class. So I started taking their readings and creating the podcasts for their readings so they could listen to their readings to and from on their way back and forth from school. I told them they still need to do the reading, but this way that they could get an overview, they could get, because they have 5 classes or 4 classes at the same time.
That's all. Yeah, like that's like the exact case use when I saw it. I was like, man, this would be great if you're just like you're driving and you need to just like get through stuff. And then there's actually, I don't know if they updated it recently, but like I was looking at it and you can like interrupt the podcast and then ask them a question and then they respond to you. It's like I was like, this is wild. But I thought that was very interesting. And was there anyone else or we're good?
Matt, did you have a comment or a question?
I was just going to read what my chat question is, and
Oh.
maybe you'll discuss this later on. I was asking you, could you discuss a little bit about your prompt development to ensure accuracy and research is not made up by AI to fill in gaps?
Oh, yeah. So one thing, because we are medical group, like medical education, almost absolutely everything gets reviewed. So this doc will get reviewed. Everything gets looked at by like at least 3 professionals. Like we have 2 psychologists, and then we have like a bunch of clinicians that we kind of like work with here and there. So we have like a team that reviews all of our content, like no matter what, because we have found that there are like not that the things are like egregiously wrong, but we find that they focus on things that like we wouldn't choose to focus on. So like they're emphasizing points that are like not the biggest points to us, like that we want the learner to notice and to like take home. So we do, like we don't ever like 100% trust everything. And then with Claude and the prompts, and there'll be some other prompts you'll see in a minute. I don't have a huge like when it comes to like trying to make sure it's correct. We just try to give it as much context as possible up front. That's kind of like what like the big learning curve we found is like you kind of have to train it up front and before you want it to actually do the work. So asking it to behave and imagine itself in a certain way and like what you're looking for. Because yeah, if you're vague, it's I don't know, it's like you'll see what it does when I have a screenshot of like being vague, and it's not bad, but okay, all right. Well, we can talk more about prompts as well. What else do I have after this? Okay, so 11 Labs is an audio AI platform. And the reason why I use 11 Labs is so while we do a lot of video with our doctors, sometimes we're placing slides after the fact to match their words. And then every so often when we're asking other people to review before we finalize and receive feedback, we'll notice like we actually need to add something. And our doctors are very busy. So 11 Labs lets you make like AI fake versions of people's voices. And you can upload up to 10 different samples. And I have 1 million samples of our doctors. So I have like fake Dan and fake Amber and fake Jordan. And I will go in and take the text from a slide that they've added and have them read it. And I'll take the audio and then I'll make the animations and I'll insert it into the video. So it's like, it goes full screen, you don't see anyone, but then you're hearing Dan's voice talk about whatever is on the slide, and then it'll kick back into the talking head video. So it's a way to like skirt around not going into the recording studio. So, and it does a shockingly well job, like a good job. Like I was, we mess around with it and have it Dan say silly things, and I'm like, yeah, no, that everyone's like, this is very impressive. And then the screenshot I have here is like we're taking one of these like scripts of like our student patient examples, and so you can choose the voices, and then one of their updates they did within the last few months is you can tag with like emotions and tones. So like at the bottom I'm like nervous, like pause, like saying the next one like in a positive way. So you can add these in to try to make your AI audio sound better and like more intentional, like like with emotion. So I was like pretty pleased with like how that came out. We're doing like a audio conversation between a doctor and patient in this example. And then on the left-hand side, there's all sorts of stuff that like I haven't even explored yet. So like a voice changer. So like you speak into your microphone and then it switches to one of these AI voices. Like, if I need Dan to give the 2-minute tour of a course instead of me, like I could say it all, but then we could switch it to Dan's voice. So he's the one that's like the final audio. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff, like you can record, like do audiobooks and dubbing. Yeah, I was like very happy. So I pay like $5 a month, and then you get credits, and the credits um add up. And yeah, I don't use it a ton. I think I use about $5 a month worth. So I was pretty happy. Um, any thoughts or questions about 11 Labs?
Yeah, my question or thought is, and it goes back to the previous tool too, is that you're putting in, you had said that you internally have had like conversations about should we be giving it our content? Like how do the doctors and the like faculty feel about things like giving it their voice or giving it their slides and content? What are those, have you had any resistance from people?
So we did before I did anything, we had a big conversation about um like what people like want to consent to. Like, like if I made a voice of you without your approval, without your consent, like I like that feels like morally wrong. So we did have a conversation of it, like I feel like everything needs like a conversation where it's like, what is the good, what is the bad? Can we imagine this going wrong in any type of like meaningful way? Like, can anyone else gain access to this? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen with Dan's voice? Yeah, like we chatted through it. It's pretty locked down. It's just me. I got the consent of all the doctors that I made fake voices of, because they were like, yeah, I don't have to come into the recording studio. Great. I don't have to spend 2 minutes like recording it on my lunch break. You can make fake me all day long. So like they're fine with it, but I could absolutely imagine people being like, no, no, I don't want a fake version of me out there on the internet that can just say anything. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. It's an interesting thing because I can see for them that it would be saving time and they still get their sort of literally their voice on things that they didn't take. I'm not meaning this critically, but like didn't take the time to actually do it. And then it extends like, the life of their voice. But on the other hand, yeah, it seems like there could be some nefarious uses of such things. So I personally would be, I feel like a little more protective of my voice, but I guess it depends on people's different levels of tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like when we chat through it, we're just like trying to imagine worst case scenario. Like what is the worst thing that could happen? Um, yeah. And then we're like, we always end up with like the robots take over.
That is ultimately the worst thing that could happen. Or maybe the best. I don't know.
I know.
Humans aren't doing like the best job either. So
Exactly. So agree. So agree. Okay, this one's I think one that is super, super awesome. And I feel like I share it to anyone that does audio on video, like with videos. So Adobe has this little website called podcast.adobe.com. If for the free, or like if you have like Creative Cloud, they limit you to like how many files, or like how big your files are. But when I need to use it, I just pay the $10 for the month and then I call it a day. But what it does is, or I'll give you my case use. So we have Jillian here in the studio, but like not a great example. The big example I use all the time is sometimes we will record video in a like patient exam room with a doctor or two doctors talking about sharing the care of a patient. So they're like sitting next to each other. We have an iPhone on a tripod and we're just recording them. We're like, iPhones are great, no big deal. So the video is really great, but because the iPhone is kind of farther away to get the whole shot, the audio is kind of junk. So what happens is I take the video, I throw it into podcast, Adobe Podcast, and then it cleans up the audio like so insanely well. It almost sounds like everybody's mic'd up with like the cleanest, clearest audio. If there's any background noise, you've got these sliders, you can control it. Like sometimes it cleans it up too well, and I have to like slide it back to be like, it needs to sound a little bit more realistic. But yeah, anytime I need something that like the audio, maybe there's like sometimes like actually in a recording studio, like the air conditioner will kick on and there'll be like a rattling in the ceiling and makes us crazy. I just take those videos and I feed it through podcast, .adobe.com, and it just does such an incredible job of cleaning up audio for audio files and video files. Like I'm just so impressed. I don't know, it's magical to me. I love it. I don't know if I pitched it hard enough, but any questions about Adobe Podcast? Okay, all right.
Sorry, there's my
Go
mic. Gotta press the right buttons. You were mentioning a time limit. We have the entire Adobe package, but what is the time limit on podcast? I haven't used this yet.
Yeah, so and it's all web-based. So I feel like you can, I'm going to probably say this wrong. I think you can upload 4 files per day and they're limited by size. But even when I pay for the $10 premium access, it still limits the size of video by 1 gig. So sometimes if I have like a 3 gig video, I have to cut it up into like manageable chunks, feed it through, and then stitch it back up. But like I feel like it's worth it.
Now, can podcast increase the quality, like put it into 720 or 1080?
Not the video quality.
Okay,
It's strictly audio.
because I'd record in like 480, so it's a really small file, and then have podcast change it and the audio.
Yeah, just the audio. It won't even like let me. It won't let me do anything to the video. It won't let me like brighten it or like crop it or trim it. It's like just like this is just the audio for this video.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem. But it does such a it does such a good job. I'm like, I love this so much. Okay, so those were my 2 audios, and then okay, so I know we were talking about Gemini, but I wanted to talk about Nano Banana, which is their image generator. So, and before I talk about image generation, I will say I have a bachelor's in fine art in illustration, so you can probably imagine I have some feelings about AI art. I probably don't have the most insane and aggressive opinions about AI art, other than like, I don't know, everything I see lately has been slop, so I'm not too worried about it. But for my job, I sometimes have to find images to match with our case examples of, a physician talking with a patient. And so we give a little like blurb of like who the patient is, what their name is, their age, their ethnicity, like any background information, and then we go into the conversation. So this was me just testing, and I actually used both of these images, but like you were asking about the prompts, and so that I put in this such a vague prompt. I just said a behavioral health professional in a primary care setting talking with a patient who is a middle-aged Asian woman, because that's what I needed for one of our case examples. And like I think it did a pretty good job. Like one of our big things for behavioral health professionals is like we don't use pictures with like white lab coats and a stethoscope. Like that's not who we are. That's not how we dress. And so when like it gave me a picture of like what Amber would look like, one of our doctors, I'm like, yeah, that works. But then we also needed the background to set the scene. So I asked it like, can you keep the same scene but remove the people? I just need like the photo of the patient room. And then it did a great job. I was pretty impressed. So normally like I would go to Big Stock or like Adobe like stock photos and try to like sort through the stock photos of like trying to find something that would match the description. So this is my first time recently just trying to have it generate what I needed. And I don't know, I thought it did a pretty good job. Has anyone else like used like image generation?
Yes, quite a bit. And you can even make things like change. You can have the screen change in the background and do all kinds of different things for your. That's interesting that you got that out of such a short prompt.
Well, that's why I'm like, I was shocked, honestly. I'm like, I thought I was gonna have to work way harder.
And they don't have six fingers or anything or unusual things about them. It's getting better and better.
Yeah. So this must have been like 2 weeks ago when I did this one. And yeah, like I feel like every week and every month and it's just it's getting like more refined and more precise and more like clued in. Yeah, I was like pretty shocked about that one.
Well, in the position of the doctor to the patient, I mean, that's sort of a natural, she's engaged in what the patient's saying. That's a pretty darn good photo.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So yeah, like we used it and then everyone's like, yo, we should just always do this. I agree. I think that's my last example, but I do have a bonus. So
I
I
think,
have like, oh, go
Marcia,
ahead.
did you have a question?
Oh, I was going to add something. You were asking about having used image generation, and I used it for in Photoshop. You can change the facial expressions of the characters. So I like in a scenario situation. I found that kind of useful. So
Is that where it's like the neural filters and you can
yeah, I
like
mean, I used it. It was maybe like 3 years ago when it first came out. So you kind of had to experiment with it. So I don't know what it is like now. I haven't used it in so long, but yeah, it was. I think it was the neural filters.
yeah, I think I used it last year to make my child smile in a photo. Yes.
Pretty freaky.
Yeah. Okay, so I had a bonus, and the bonus is I like was asking kind of like other instructional designers in my network and like people I'm friends with, like what other platforms are you using? And my friend Sean he works for like one of the big tech companies, and he's like, these are mostly like integrated internally, but like you can access them. So like I've been focusing on tools that are like specific to like the media, so image, audio, text. And then Sean kind of sent me some really interesting ones where it was like these are like almost like bigger picture. Like I'm focusing on the trees and he's focusing on the forest. So Manus is like, he's like, we've done lesson plans, like we've developed the learning content, like we've built websites with it. and apps. And I was like, that's crazy. This is like, I'm just a little old me in my little old group. So like this world is, I don't know, it's beyond what I'm capable of imagining because I do such, I think, small stuff. So yeah, he was like kind of like showing me a little bit of how Manus works. And then there was another one. What is this one? Sana Labs. And then he said that these ones will make interactive websites for like follow along slide presentations that have Zoom-like comments with emoji reactions and polls built in. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I haven't like tried any of these like larger things. I also don't feel like I have a reason to for like what I'm doing for like my course development. Um, but I find it all very interesting and I'm like very curious about it all. But like I don't have a reason to use it. So I gotta like my time is limited, so I gotta figure out like what is gonna like actually save me time instead of getting sucked down like a cool new tech hole and now like I'm not actually doing any of my real work. I'm just learning about new tech. So it's a fine line. But I will jump out and I can stop sharing and then we can chat more if you'd like.
I read an article, I don't remember where it was the other day or last week about people spending AI not saving time, it's actually making them work more because they're like trying to do this and then try that out and just like also expanding what they're able to do. So then they're doing more. It's not like they're like, okay, AI, do all my work and I'm going to go relax. It's like, oh, wow, I could also do this. I could also do this. And then just that's what I kind of part one of a thousand things that I'm afraid of
It
about
feels
AI.
like the new like Netflix where you just scroll and you're trying to find something to watch and you don't ever actually watch anything. But yeah, like I feel like I could spend a whole day like just looking at cool new things. But that's why I kind of like I feel like maybe I didn't show anything like super exciting, but like these are things that like I actually use that actually saves me time, that does things that like I probably couldn't be able to find elsewhere or do elsewhere. Does anyone else have like other tools that that this has like jogged, jogged for you to like, oh yeah, I use a similar thing and I do a different thing with it.
I have something that's more different, I guess. I used Copilot to help me with some code on a website, like writing data to an LRS, learning record store, and not really knowing how to do that. Just Copilot was really great. Like just knowing enough to know what to ask it, and then it just did it. But if you don't know what you need to ask, then that's where I would run into problems. Like if yeah, so
Yeah, like I don't know anything about code and I wouldn't even know like the jargon to ask it to do something. So yeah, so there has to be like a base knowledge.
yeah, it would depend on basically what I knew, whether how successful it was going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, website development is like not something I've tried yet, but we use Canvas as our LMS, and you can do like HTML stuff. So I'm always like, oh, should I try to like have AI develop some code to like do something cool and then plug it in?
Yeah, you could have Copilot like Kristen. We had Keisha on the other day talking about how to do this. You could have Copilot open and just say, well, how would I make it look like this? And then it could probably give you the code to plug in.
I like it. I like it. And then I'll get sucked down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an assignment in the emerging technology course where the students have to interview somebody about AI. And one of the students interviewed his father, who just seemed like just like a dude who had like a business that was something silly like I don't know, selling vacuum cleaners or something. And he used to pay someone to create a website for him. And now he's like, no, I just make it myself. And he said he had like no background in like making websites. But he using different AI tools was able to like make a website for his company, his little small business. And that he now, but then the part that makes me sad is he's like, I don't have to pay my web designer anymore. And it's like, yeah, but that's a human person.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'll be really curious to see like how things progress
Well,
as like
that's
a
my
whole.
Yeah, that's my Cindy did a AI presentation earlier, and I was like the heckler the whole time asking, questions. But I want to ask you, after you've played with so many of these things, do you feel like there's the potential that it could replace you, or that it could, if you're working on a small team, could that team get even smaller?
Like I feel like our team is based on like data and research. So like all the things that we teach are backed up by research papers and data. And so we found that like when we go into like ChatGPT and we go into Claude and we ask them to find papers for us, like that's when it goes like it hallucinates. So it'll give us like journals that don't exist, or like Dan will like look up that journal and like that article doesn't exist. So we're like, for us, we're like, well, like we are synthesizing the data and we're developing the content. Like, I don't think, like, if they can't even give me the journals and research data correctly, like, what, like, our jobs are probably fine. Mine is like just like the developer, like the instructional designer. I'd probably be the first on the chopping block. But like our doctors are they're doing great. And their research also is like moving very, very fast. Like we do a lot of education on supporting patients with like addiction and like opioid use disorder and like substance use disorder or like alcohol use disorder, and the medications that support and help these patients. And like that area is like changing like every 6 months on its own, just like more research, more data, like we're keeping up with the information, the research. So like I don't know. I don't think my space, I don't think we're worried, but like I feel like if I was in like a big tech company, I would probably be concerned.
I was just thinking about the through line for each of the different tools that you showed us. Uh, they are facilitating your creation of something. They're not creating something for you. So even when you're having somebody's voice being produced by 11 Lab, you are determining what it is that they're going to say and how it fits into a bigger story. So you're not having it create anything. You're using it just like a, a, a paintbrush or a drill or whatever in order to create something. I don't think that part can be replaced.
Yeah, yeah. And we have asked like Claude to help us with like analogies. So there's like different like in our brain there's receptors, and there's 3 medications to treat opioid use disorder, and they all do different things. And your brain reacts different ways to them. So we fed that information and we were like, help us with like an analogy, like help us create a way to explain this to someone who isn't well versed in like brain science. It gave us like some great like lock and key, like the key goes all the way and the key goes halfway, like the lock is blocked and you can't put the key in. And it gave us some like really like I was like very impressed with like the creativity of like the analogies it came up with. But like I feel like that was the first time we were like, be creative and like go crazy, Claude. That's the first time we asked it to like make its own kind of like pull out something interesting that like we didn't tell you to manipulate. But yeah, I would say like I went into this being like these are tools. I use them like tools. Just like a paintbrush, exactly.
Yep. Yep.
I'll ask my other heckling question about AI. Do you feel any, um, so a reason why I understand it and I've dabbled in reading about it and I've used it a little bit, but the reason why I haven't really gone deep into it is because I just feel like the environmental impact just outweighs my tinkering around. Do you feel that at all, or do you have any feelings about that, or?
So I'll give you I'll give you my hot take on like the environmental or like morality of AI. So, and I'm going to give a couple other examples of like how I feel. So okay, so AI is generated by a bunch of servers whirling around in warehouses that are like being air conditioned and cooled with water. And that is like the big beef. And I agree. But anyone that's like using a smartphone or storing files online, using Google Drive, like using Dropbox, using Amazon, like these are warehouses of servers whirling around. So it becomes like where is your line and where are you comfortable on that line? So like I am fine with it. So like other examples are like I do pottery and I do ceramics. I me and my husband design it on the computer. We make molds and then we slip cast our molds. So other potters will say like that's not handmade and you're not a traditional potter. And so like and I'll say okay, but like where's your line? Like are you mixing your own glazes? Are you like digging in the dirt and finding a clay deposit and then you're like making your clay? Like where like is the wheel a tool when you throw a bowl? Like the wheel is a tool, is it not handmade? So only things that are like pitch pots are handmade? Like what are we talking here? So like again, like where is the line and where is your line? Like it's totally fine. It's like I'm vegan but I wear a leather belt and I have honey. So like where okay, like fine. Like if that's your line and there's a spectrum of everything, like wherever your line is like I don't know, it's a personal thing. I think when people come in hot at me, I'm like, I don't know, man, like where's your line? So that's my hot take. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Jess, I really appreciate the analogy of where your line is. Like I stopped using Amazon, I stopped doing all these other things because of what you talked about. And AI really helps me with things. I was trying to wrap my head around it, and I love that you're like you just like where is your line at? I love Kristen's line. I love where it's at. I love her reasoning behind it. And I also am like I can't do that, or that's not where my line is. And I think that's not where my line is. It's not I can't do that. So I really appreciate your response.
Thanks. Yeah. And I feel like you can like take it across everything. Like the people that like don't want to use drinking straws. I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. I love a straw. I'm not giving up my straws. Like, that's not my line. Also, like, no hate to anyone else's lines. Like, it's just a personal take. It's like it's a personal thing.
Yeah, I think my part of my reason for the question is to try to get my move my line. Like I want to be more actively engaged with it, but I can't get over the guilt, but I have to figure out, what that balance looks like.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll
Honestly, I feel like that the way to feel better about it is to like get into the policy that controls these things. It's like not to get political, but like there is policy that allows the warehouses and allows spaces, and the communities can choose not to have them. And so it becomes like a legislative, localized, situation of like what are we allowing and not allowing, and how are these companies like counteracting it, and can we support those things like
yes, and well, I want to say Amy just popped on. Amy, you're coming in at the tail end. I don't know, maybe you had what's it called? A time zone thing because we're wrapping up, but you're welcome to hang out and hear the end of the conversation, and I'll send out the link tomorrow if you want to hear from the beginning. But we're just talking about a little bit about the environmental impact and how we just make those decisions about, is it worth it to use AI with the environmental impact, or what is the cost benefit? And I know we're just about at time, but Cindy and I had this conversation earlier too. I feel like I'm feeling like sort of shamed into not using AI, and yet like these big companies are using it and other people are using it, and they're sort of going to get ahead of me in terms of whatever their skills or their productivity. And it to me it's like hitting in the same way that I think about recycling. Like I will recycle like the smallest yogurt container, and I'll spend like 10 minutes of my time washing this container so that it can go in the recycling bin. Yet big companies are doing huge, things that have a much more massive impact. So I think your comment about like the politics and having different ways to regulate some of these things and putting our uh, work into helping those regulations come in so that kind of it can be spread out. Everybody can kind of do their part to act responsibly.
yeah.
If I may say something, in my training division, our line is somewhat determined by our audience. So if we're onboarding a group of people, we throw a lot more AI at them just so that they get used to it, and and they don't uh, they don't pronounce objections when they're new hires. So they just sort of have to take the AI. But when we develop a training for like our engineer group, very little AI. We have to be very careful about integrating our AI into their training programs because they're more particular. They want to see their cohorts, or they want to see uh, real humans involved in their things. So our line in that department sort of flows with the audience that we're producing our training for.
Yeah, that's interesting to consider too, because someone earlier, we had done like a demo of the audio podcast in Notebook LM and like had a very bad reaction to like the audio voices, the robot voices. Like, no, like that's not for me. Like, I don't want to hear those kinds of voices. So I think your point is good, Matt, that you have to take into consideration who you're designing for too, and what they're looking to experience.
Yeah, like my boss Dan hated the audio. Like he was like, yuck, this feels like two people being like, HR training is gonna be great and you're gonna
Yeah.
love it. And he's like, I cannot listen to this. I was like, okay, not for Dan, got it.
Right. Well, I think this was really helpful. Thank you guys for joining us and your questions and sharing what you're doing as well. And thank you so much, Jess, for sharing all these tools. I think it was really great to hear, to get exposure to some different tools, some things I hadn't heard about, and how you're really using them. Like you emphasize that it's not just like things you saw on the internet, like these are actually ways that you're using the different tools. So I really appreciate that, and thanks for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, I'm going to stop the recording.